Hi, ladies and gentlemen. I am Morris Merriweather, the host of Straight Talk in Room 503. Again, we welcome you back to the class of Straight Talk. I enjoy coming to you each week and dealing with some issues involving public education, which is very dear to my heart because I'm a product of public education. I haven't forgot my humble beginning. Ladies and gentlemen, what has happened is that there are a lot of people who have forgotten that they are a product of public education. And they're pretending that things are going to get better on its own, and it never will happen. Work is required. Faith without work, according to the Bible and the Lord, it's dead. You must have faith, but you must work your faith. You can't attend to leave it to other people to make sure that public education continue to do very well. You must do your part. Constantly, I'm bombarded with people saying it's parents who causing this problem, it's board members, it's superintendent, it's teachers, and it's go on and on and on. But I've never had anyone to walk up to me and say, Merriweather, you know what? I'm some of that problem too because I can do more. That is exactly what it's going to take. It's going to take us doing more. I'm appalled at the fact that our churches throughout this country, and there's thousands of churches, not once have I picked up any article that says this church or this denomination is doing this for public education. Constantly you're on the news and you hear, for instance, in Flint, Michigan, churches and organizations sending water for people. And that's all necessary and needed. We need to reach out and help other people. But when is the last time you have picked up an article that says that this church or this congregation is invested in public education? Public education affects all of us, no matter what walk of life, what nationality, whatever. Public education affects everyone. The more productive citizens we have, the more it is better for all of us. We sit back and we're willing to pay millions and millions of dollars to house prisoners, but we're not willing to stop the flow of people going into the prison. And so it makes me feel like that incarceration is over education because you prefer it. But even when I worked as a juvenile court official, it was at that time, years and years ago, it cost nearly $25,000 or $30,000 to house just one individual in a juvenile facility. Can you imagine how much it costs? And I think the last figures that I heard was $125,000 a year per inmate. We have no problem with that. Well, it's okay to be a prison, but is it okay that we allow our decay of our public education school system? I was reading an article and it says here, black churches take in $421 billion in tithes. Now, I'm assuming because of the fact that the white community has a greater access to funding. And so therefore I would assume that, and forgive me if I'm wrong, I have made mistakes before, I'm human, but I'm saying that if black churches take in each year $421 billion in tithes, what in the world are other denominations, white, Jews, Pentecostal, Church of Christ, and on and on and on, what are they taking in? When is the last time that you picked up an article that says that this church is making a contribution? If we can raise $421 billion, can you imagine that if each church that has that amount of money coming into tithe, if they would just give 1% or 0.5% to public education, we could turn this thing around. Money, ladies and gentlemen, I do understand, I'm not naive. Money will not completely turn this thing around. But funding, it takes money to do anything. It takes money for you to pay your utility bill. It takes money for you to take vacation trip. It takes money for you to support your family. So there's no way to get around money. It makes a lot of things happen. I'm not frowning up at African American churches because I have a problem with all churches that they're, in my opinion, not doing their part to help public education. You don't necessarily have to give money. Churches have all careers in their church, bankers, carpenters, teachers, retired administrators. If we had the resources in the church that would come out and volunteer to assist in building public education back up, we could turn this thing around. So my question is, I wonder why our churches and our organizations are not doing more. Think about it. Just think about that. Ladies and gentlemen, let me move on. I just really don't think that we're using what God has given us. You see, God is a multiplier. He's not a division person. He don't take from us. He gives to us. But in order for us to receive blessings from God, we have to ask for those blessings. Then God said he provide all of our needs. That include public education. We need to, on a daily basis, be praying for public education, be volunteering, be working, be contacting, go to meetings. We need to do all of that if we're going to turn this thing around. Now, let me tell you just briefly about me, then we're going to take a short break and come back. I had a very humble beginning. I grew up in the part of Jackson, Tennessee that was considered to be a poor section, which was East Jackson. And I went to integrated schools for most of my public education life. And so therefore I have a basic for how I feel. I remember going to Lincoln Elementary School, and I remember on rainy days that we had to walk around the buckets in the hallways, and the lighting was bad, and the building needed painting. Great teachers that came every day and poured their hearts into to what they was doing with the young people. And then I went on to Jackson Junior High School, was among the first 10 African Americans that integrated public school system in my hometown. I've always had a desire for public education, wanted to see it better. But I knew that if I stayed in integrated schools, and then those that was not integrated had the resources, not that the teachers was any better than the teachers in the African American schools, because I don't believe that. I don't believe color determines your greatness. I really don't believe that. I believe what's great is your desire and asking God to bless and multiply what you have. But we went on to integrate Jackson Junior High School. Went on to Jackson High School, among the first 10, the integrated high school. So I graduated from Jackson High School. And then I went on to give back to the community by spending over 40 years and working with young people. And I have enjoyed every moment and just been tremendously blessed and being blessed as we talk. But ladies and gentlemen, I did not, when I went to create the first alternative school, I was asked by Mr. Fred Stanley to start that school, and immediately I told him my background was in juvenile justice. I did not have a teaching certificate, nor did I have a master's degree in administration and supervision, but Mr. Stanley observed something in me that he trusted that I could start the first alternative school. And I'm not boasting and bragging. I'm not a bragging person. I'm a blessed person, and I don't mind telling you how blessed I am. But I went on to create the first alternative school, the first night school. We actually had a night school from 3 to 10 here in my Jackson area, create the first zero tolerance school. We're asked by Governor Don Sunquist to head up one of the 5. We only had 5 schools in the state of Tennessee. And when he came to talk with Dr. Elsie Denley, that they got together and it was my name that came up. And I'm not being braggamentary again. I think that it was all of God, because God has your destiny already taken care of. You just need to follow what God has for you. But I created that first school and ran it well and until I retired. But ladies and gentlemen, I'm here to tell you that no, I did not. I never taught in the classroom. I didn't have a master's degree until I went back at age 50 and received my master's degree. Quite an experience to go back at age 50, sit in the classroom with students who were 19 and 20 and you're 50. But I didn't let that bother me. It was a requirement that Dr. Danley wanted, and I wanted to continue the journey of working with young people, so I was glad to go back. But that goes to show you that you do not have to have the necessary credentials in order to do God's will. God will bless you with what you have, because when God bless you for what you have, master degrees and teaching license doesn't mean anything to God. When God get ready to use you, he equip you. He don't leave you out there. There was a young lady by the name of Mary Bethune, and lots of you all know the story, but she applied for a teaching position and was turned down. She was determined. She knew that there was some greatness inside her. She went on to create the Bethune College, and was also in 1932, President Truman nominated her as the first African-American advisor to the president. Ladies and gentlemen, you can sit there now and say, I don't have this and I don't have that. Why don't you allow God to use you to improve public education? Life ain't over until it's over. Yes, I have retired, but I'm not going to sit down and sit beside and not give back. So many wonderful teachers, so many wonderful people invested in my life, and I'm going to return that blessing back. That's what God wants you to do, is take what you have and give back to the community. That's what we need to do. Ladies and gentlemen, think about this as we go to break. We did not have all of this that we have now in public education, and we produce some giants in the community. Some of the greatest doctors, lawyers, teachers, brick mason, every walk of life, every career you can think of came out of public education. But now we have what we call effective teachers. We have educated board members, highly qualified teachers, master's and doctor's degree administrators, an educated board, digital books, academic programs, computers, whiteboards. We got all of this in public education. And ladies and gentlemen, public education is an all-time low. So that tells me that having all of that is not what it needs. Our students need love, care, devotion, people who are going to bring them up in the admiration of God. Make sure they're following the golden rule. They're following the 10 Commandments. Ladies and gentlemen, we need to take a real strong look at ourselves and take a real strong look at what we're doing for public education. Stay with me. We'll be right back, okay? Thank you, and appreciate you hanging in there as I took a very brief break. But we're back. Ladies and gentlemen, a whole lot of things are running through my mind, and I immediately was thinking about the Donald Trump campaign. Donald Trump wanted to keep immigrants out of the United States. And I'm thinking maybe we ought to call Donald Trump to keep the good old boys and the good old girls away from public education. Maybe that would be a way that we could improve public education. We get some of this deadbeat people who are trying to hurt public education. Then I'm reminded of Oprah Winfrey. Millions of dollars are being spent overseas to start schools over in Africa. That's a wonderful thing. Now, don't get me wrong. I appreciate everything that Oprah Winfrey is doing. But ladies and gentlemen, according to the Bible that I read, charity starts at home and spreads abroad. We need to be spending money here in the United States, making sure that public education it is an all-time best. And I have no problem with that. But I don't see, I read constantly, and I'm always on the news, and I'm talking with people from all over the country each week about public education, so I'm very much aware of of what's going on in other cities, and it's no different in my city than it is in your city. Public education is decaying everywhere, and every week I tell you that it's going to have the same effect as global warming is having on America because of that, and that just seemed to me to be a disconnect between teachers and parents. We put all the blame on the parents. Just those young parents, they're not doing anything. Well, it's enough blame to go around. But there are some lot of things that we can do, and hopefully next week we'll talk about a few that teachers can do in working with parents. You have to work with parents. You can't abuse them and talk about them and then expect them to work and help you with their child. But parents, need to do some things as well. And that is that they need to help their child to learn how to study. With all of the new technology that is coming on now, that parents need to be taught. In the school I had on every Thursday, we had parenting classes. It was the only school in Madison County, my hometown, that had parenting class effectively. Very effective parenting class. No one talked about it. Newspapers didn't pick it up because no one was really that concerned about the caliber of students that I was working with, myself and a few people, than God. But we had parenting classes, and my parents excelled. Well, I had 100% parental participation, 99.5% success rate in terms of students attending school, and they were students that was gangbangers, pushing teachers, cussing, and what society said was the bad kids. I never worked with bad kids. I worked with kids who had negative behavior. But ladies and gentlemen, the clock on the wall says that it's time for me to get out of here. We have had a setback in public education, but I'm reminded that sometimes that God allows things to happen, and they happen for a reason and a purpose. The setback is only for a comeback for greater things that God has for public education. Join me again next week as we continue on down the journey of talking about public education. Join me in this fight. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm your host, Morris Merriweather, the author of Enough is Enough. If you haven't had a chance to read my book, please go to www.morrismerriweather.com and get your copy of my book. It's filled with a lot of stuff that you need to know that's going on that perhaps you will not know of unless you really dug into the book and see what's going on. But I am your host, Morris Merriweather, Straight Talking Room 503. We'll see you again next week. Have a fantastic and a blessed week. And ladies and gentlemen, remember that God loves you, and so do I. I'll see you next week. Thank you so very much. Till then.